Welcome again to Concept. I'm Dr. Bill Loveless. Thanks for watching. We're going to look at what can you expect out of marriage today. Marriage expectations. What do you have a right to expect, and what should you expect, and what can you expect? They're not all the same, because a lot of people expect things that never happen in marriage, and some people don't expect things that always happen. And those two need to be parsed out today, and we're going to do that in this next program. And I hope you'll stay with us because it's a lot of fun. Everybody wants to get along with somebody else in such a way that everyone is happy and fulfilled and growing. This is something which everybody looks forward to when we talk about marriage and the marriage relationship. This is something which I'm going to talk about today, and we're going to look at and very careful. What expectations do you have a right to look forward to as you get married? People want happiness and joy. People want fulfillment. People want compatibility. People want all kinds of good stuff. And so do I. And I want you to have that too. But there are certain expectations which we have and certain expectations which we need to look at carefully today. So let's take a look at what we're really going to see when we start talking about marriage expectations. A lasting marriage results from a couple's ability to solve conflict. Now, I'd like to add something to that, and that is solve conflict in a positive way. Some people solve conflict by making pronouncements. And that's not the way to solve the conflict. So, conflict resolution. Howard Markman, one of America's premier marriage therapists, basically says that conflict is the secret of happy marriages. That is, solving conflicts. The ability to negotiate, the ability to listen, the ability to look at alternatives. Those are the skills that are necessary in order for conflict to be solved. So we start off with, how do we learn how to solve conflict when we've never been to school before in a conflict solution class? We just got married. We thought if we got married, that would take care of everything. But a lasting marriage results from couples early on learning how to solve conflicts together. Conflict solution in marriage demands a sophisticated process which you really don't look at during courtship very much. You know, courtship is that blind period of time when everybody is just kind of looking forward to the goodness and the happiness of our marriage. And we talk wedding, and couples are thinking about courtship and marriage. They all get kind of confused together. And so the skills of conflict resolution, which are actually crucial in marriage, are bypassed much of the time when we're looking at some ability to grow. Growth is essential. And what do we mean by growth? How do you enhance the relationship in times of conflict? That's what we mean by growth. Growth is essential. The ability to listen more, the ability to negotiate, the ability to know where you are, where your partner is, the ability to sit down together without blowing up and attacking each other with a bunch of you messages. All of this is what I mean by growth. And actually, we enhance the relationship in times of conflict by growing. These skills that I've been talking about are the skills that actually help us grow into the kind of person that we want to be. Now, here is a formula. Listen to this formula. You might even want to write it down and put it on the mirror. Caring plus confrontation. Caring plus confrontation equals growth. Now, the formula always has to be in the right order. You know, in chemistry class, you discover that when you're dealing with formulas and you're dealing with theorems and algebra and so on, you always have to follow the same sequence or the whole place will blow up. Well, when we're talking about growth, we have to follow the same sequence. You don't confront somebody if they're pretty clear you don't care for them. What's going to happen? Explosions. So caring, gentle caring, letting your partner know you care for them before you confront in a gentle, positive way can equal growth in the skills that make marriage rewarding and possible. So the caring plus confrontation equals growth. That's the formula for people who are really growing in a relationship. Not easy. It's awfully easy to confront when you're not caring. When you're angry, you confront. That's the wrong time to do it if you want growth to take place or positive change to take place. What are some realistic expectations that we have a right to look forward to in marriage? These are realistic expectations. You will share much, but not all. Uncensored self-disclosure posing as open communication often can be very destructive. You hear what I said? Very, very important. You will share much, but not all, particularly about the past. It's very important to stay away from discussions of old boyfriends and old girlfriends and old romances of the past. It's none of your business, it's none of your partner's business to go into that, and that's a good place to stay away from. You need to be careful that in open communication, we say everything, we know everything. Be careful with that. That can cause all kinds of problems. Secondly, it's realistic to expect that each of you will change. And the changing can be challenging. Did you hear what I said? The changing can be challenging. Let me put it another way. The changing is usually challenging. Not can, but usually is. Even good changes in us and in our partners oftentimes create dissonance and misunderstanding and conflict. But all of us will change, and that changing can be very challenging. Number 3, each will accept responsibility for yourself and grant your partner the same privilege. You are responsible for yourself in marriage. You have a realistic expectation to be responsible for yourself. And you have a realistic expectation for your partner to be the same, responsible for him or herself. That's a realistic expectation in marriage. Here's one that I want all of you to read carefully. And remember, you are not in the people-changing business. In other words, it's realistic to understand that in marriage, the partners are not trying to change each other. They're not in the people-changing business. This is simply something that you want to stay away from. Now, for every set of realistic expectations, I have discovered in my clients some unrealistic expectations. And I think it's important when we talk about expectations in marriage, not only to talk about the realistic ones, but to talk about the unrealistic ones as well. So I have a list of unrealistic expectations. Let's take a look at what they are. Number 1, your mate belongs to you. Really? Oh, I know so many people that think, yes, my mate belongs. That's total bunk. You don't belong to anybody else except God, and your partner doesn't belong to anybody else except God. You don't belong to each other. Number 2, you will never be lonely again. Yes, you will be lonely again. Even in a happy marriage, you may be lonely again. Unrealistic expectation. Number 3, Your mate will never be tempted or attracted to another person. Wrong. Yes, they will. Your husband will be attracted to another woman. Your wife will be attracted to another man, probably several times during the course of your life. Unrealistic expectation. Here's one that I really hear so much. Jealousy means you care. Jealousy doesn't mean you care. Jealousy means you're sick. That's what jealousy means. That's something to see a therapist about, because that's a sickness. Certainly it doesn't mean you care. It means you don't care very much. That's why you're jealous. Here's another one. Marriage will automatically bring comfort and security. Well, marriage will automatically bring discomfort and insecurity. There is no way you can escape either one of those during the course of a marriage. So those are the unrealistic ones. Now let's deal with what you're going to do about it. What can you do? You have realistic expectations, you have unrealistic expectations. Now let's put them together and look at some of the subjects that are often neglected in the glow of pre-wedding plans. I talk about these subjects as the unnegotiated contract. These are subjects that people never talk about during their pre-marriage time. Most pre-marriage counselors don't spend a lot of time, if any time, with a lot of these topics. These are the unnegotiated topics, usually untalked about. You know, everybody kind of thinks that when they go into marriage, they're going to be like they always have been, and their partners is going to be like they were in courtship. Not so. Everything changes. When people say, I do, the whole landscape changes. And so that's why it's important for us to take a look at these particular kinds of questions. These are the unnegotiated questions. Now, some people talk about them. Most of the time, I find couples don't, unless they're talking with Bill Loveless. And I tend to bring these up because these are the questions I've discovered are very, very crucial. Number one, what are we going to do with ownership of property and other assets? Whose name is going to be on the car? Whose name is going to be on the house? Whose name is going to be on anything we own? His name? Her name? Both names? Usually you're going to pretty much follow the pattern in your own family. So that is something to talk about. This is one of those unnegotiated things that you need to talk about, the ownership of property and all assets. If something were to accidentally happen to one of you, what would happen? Number two, management of household responsibilities. Every woman and every man, every young woman and every young man think they know the answer to this question. Well, women do the housework and men do the cars and the lawn. I have news for you. That's not the way it is anymore. Maybe that's the way it used to be, but hey, it ain't that way now. In fact, John Gottman, I've quoted him already because I read him a lot. John Gottman says, hey, men who want more sex do more housework. There's no reason a woman can't take the car to the garage and get serviced. There's all kinds of ways of negotiating management of household responsibilities. Those have to be talked. That's why I call this the unnegotiated contract. Next, well, this is a biggie. Use of free time. What do you mean free? Free time. Well, before you got married, most women, most men had time to spend with their friends. We call that free time. They watch football games, go travel, go shopping, whatever. When you get married, whoops, where did the free time go? Or do you still want free time? Does Dad still want to watch the football game on Sunday afternoon? Monday night football, baseball. Does she want to go shopping? Does she want to go by herself? Does she want her husband to go with her? What happens with the free time before you get married? Need to be talked about. It's one of those unnegotiated things that couples kind of stay away from. Another biggie is the role of religion. The role of religion in the family. In many cases, couples talk about this ahead of time. In many cases, they don't. They kind of assume that it's kind of going to go on like it was before they got married. Remember, courtship is a notoriously dishonest period of time. You present your best foot. She presents her best foot. You present your best foot. Everything is lovely and roses. And you kind of stay away from negotiating the toughies. Are you going to get up early in the morning and go to church? How often are you going to go to church? Are you going to pay money to the church? How much money are you going to pay? What is the role of religion in family worship? What is the role of religion when children come? Are they going to go to church school, public school? What is the role of religion? What do you want it to be in your family? Best to talk about this even before the wedding, to negotiate these unnegotiated topics that tend to pass on. Here's another big one. The role of the extended family. Well, you know, your mother is kind of crazy. I don't know if I can stand your dad. Or your grandfather is really nuts. He's an alcoholic. And blah, 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 blah. You got all of these extended family members. Where are we going to spend Thanksgiving? Where are we going to go for Christmas? How often are we going to... Where does all of these family tree people? You shake the family tree and there's bound to be a few nuts fall out, you know. Horse thieves and pirates and what else? What are you going to do with all this extended family? Are they going to be welcome in your home? Are you going to entertain them? Where do they fit in, the extended family? How special do you want them to be to each other, to your spouse, your husband, wife, and to your kids? Step-parents, great step-parents, all kinds of interesting questions which need to be talked about. Oftentimes, best talked about before the wedding. Let's take a look at another biggie. And the role of pre-wedding friends. Now, you know, this is a big one that I get into oftentimes with my friends when we're talking about the wedding and post-wedding time. The pre-wedding friends. You know, honey, I really can't stand that girlfriend of yours. She really bugs me. I would just as soon you cancel her off. Well, sir, I don't really like your boyfriends either. They drink too much. They're too loud. I don't like these guys. I don't want you to spend a lot of time with them anymore. We're getting married now. You need to be careful about how you see the pre-wedding friends. That needs to be talked about. This is a negotiated situation that many couples seldom deal with beforehand. Closely related to this, but certainly not the same thing at all, is what we're going to do with the management of alcohol and other drugs. Now, I use other drugs here, not so much for street drugs as drugs in the medicine cabinet. You know, if you look in the average American medicine cabinet, you've got all kinds of drugs in there, Tylenol and aspirin and all kinds of painkillers and all kinds of this and all kinds of that, and I'm including that in drugs because that's what they are. And I'm including alcohol, marijuana. Certainly the street drugs, we would hope that's another topic to talk about some other program. What are you going to do as a family with the management of alcohol and so-called acceptable drugs in the family? Something needs to be talked about, needs to be negotiated so that you're clear. No surprises. Wow, I didn't realize my husband was a drug addict. I don't mean hard drugs, the medicine cabinet addict, that kind of drugs. Here's another biggie. that we need to talk a little bit about in some detail, and that's the management of health. Diet, exercise, and weight. Give me an answer to this question. How many couples after the wedding start gaining weight? Want to guess? Most of them. I don't have a percentage because I don't know anybody who's ever taken a poll. But I've married an awful lot of couples in my career, well over 1,000. And I have noticed that after the wedding, a year or two later, both dad and mom take on some added weight. Some of them quite a bit. How about talking about that before the wedding? What are we going to do to control our weight? I don't have to tell you the health problems that are coming as a result of gaining weight. Diet, exercise, we're going to keep walking, we're going to go to a gym. How are we going to take care of our diet? Are we going to watch what we eat, what we drink? How do we want to manage this? And these are the kinds of things that couples usually don't talk a lot about, but need to talk about before the wedding begins. I think it's important to take a lot of focus on that wedding, but I think it's a lot more important to actually spend some time talking about the marriage. This is the thing that really matters, because as we move along in the situation that we're in, we ask ourselves the question, what shall we do and be as a couple? How do we really make this work together? These are questions I've raised. I hope you've talked about them. I hope you've raised them. If you haven't, please do that. I'd like to talk a little bit. Guys, be careful now. Sit quiet. Listen carefully. I'd like to talk to you men for a minute. Sidestepping and ignoring problems won't make the problem go away. We'll take care of that tomorrow, honey. Don't bring this up now. I'm busy. I can't take care of that. That's a typical male way of dealing with conflict, especially if there's a difference of opinion. Listen to me carefully, men. Stop doing that. Start listening. Start listening carefully. She has something to say, it's important. It's important for you to listen to it and hear it. You women, approach confrontation gently. Men are far more sensitive and tender than you think they are. We men are not nearly the big, strong, brave guys that everybody thinks we are and that we'd like everybody to think we are. Be sensitive and be careful and gentle when you deal with your man. Now to men and to women, a simple bit of advice. Calm down. Just calm down, both of you. The best way to get along together is to talk carefully, listen carefully, calm down. Don't be afraid to take time-outs. If things are escalating inside you and you sense that conflict is coming, say, let's take a break. Let's do the time-out sign and take a little time off so we can calm down. We need to calm down. That's very important when we talk about an expectation in marriage. And I'd like to suggest the best way to do that and to keep things working is to speak non-defensively. What do we mean by speak non-defensively? How about this one? But honey, you always. No, that's speaking defensively. Honey, you always. Stay away from the you messages. go with the I messages. I'm perplexed or concerned about this. What can we together do about it to make it work? When you speak non-defensively, people are ready to listen. Husbands are ready to listen. Wives are ready to listen. But when you come on with the you always or you never, that's kind of like a red flag going up the flagpole, and everybody's ready now to defend. And when people are ready to defend, it means they're never ready to listen. And when people are never ready to listen, they're always having trouble. And nobody wants to have trouble. So we follow these 4 suggestions. Number 1, for men, don't sidestep and postpone the issue. Remember, putting it aside, stepping aside, won't make it go away. So deal with it. Deal with it non-defensively. And you wives watching, or you to-be wives soon, remember, approach it, a confrontation, very gently with a man. Men are very sensitive. Men are very weak. We're not nearly as strong as we think we are. And when we feel a confrontation coming on, it really panics us. We don't know what to do about it. And for both of you, stay calm. Speak non-defensively. Get the ears open. Watch what comes out of the mouth. And you'll be in good shape. This is what you have a right to expect realistically and unrealistically in marriage. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you've listened to the realistic expectations and to the unrealistic ones, and that you've profited by both lists. And remember what I say to everyone. When it comes to marriage and expectations in marriage, don't try to be perfect. There's actually no way you can be perfect anyway. You can try and try and try, and it still isn't going to come out perfect. So don't try to be perfect, but do try to do better. Make every day just a little bit better than yesterday. No, don't try to be perfect. Do try to do better. That's all anybody can expect.